Hi guys, it's Colette. Welcome back to my channel. The first spiritual story, or spirit story that I told you went down a treat, and you all said that you really liked them. So I thought I'd do another one. I'm quite tired. I was wanting to do more psychic development work, but I'm not up for it at the moment. So I'm going to do stories and stuff, and then we'll be back to that in the following week. It's kind of two stories, both about my dad, and the, they're quite intense, and they do show the way that spirit can help us understand things in dreams. And one of the people that liked the spirit story had said, I get lots of spirit communication in my dreams. Do you get that? And I'm like, oh yes. And you can tell, when you're dreaming, you can tell that they're there, and it's not just a crazy almost inception type dream. Spirits in our dream, we can see them, we can smell them, we can see the hairs on their nose, if you know what I mean, because we're right there beside them in dream time. The first bit wasn't a dream. The first bit was like after my dad passed. I missed him so much, but he'd had a long series of 9 years of stroke after stroke after stroke, and his quality of life wasn't very good at all a lot of the times. That's kind of the background. But the other thing was he was a very good Catholic, and I mean like church, confession, the full caboodle. And he never ever knew that I did the tarot. My mum did, but I never got round to telling him. To this stage that there was one time I was doing a house party, and I took the address, and it was across the road from my mum and dad's wee sort of sheltered house thing. And I actually, when I went to do the house party, I actually parked my car further away and snuck in the back. Because I didn't want my dad to know, because I thought he'd always said to me years and years earlier that the tarot cards were the tool of the devil and I should never touch them. Of course, don't tell a Taurian what not to do, because they'll go and do it. But I've had a connection with tarot for many years. But when I started doing it semi-professional, while I was still in pharmacy, I didn't tell him. And although my mum knew, and she quite liked the stuff and would say, can give me a wee reading and stuff, and but he never knew. So when he passed, I thought, well, I hope he gets back soon and gives me a kind of an affirmation or a message that he's okay. And he didn't. So normally I say a year before a person will start to really, a spirit can really be strong enough to communicate from their spiritual being that they're meant to be, or that they've become. So anyway, he hadn't come back, and that was fine. But then it went on to about a year and a half further, and I was beginning to think, oh, my dad's not happy with me. By that time, I was still in pharmacy. Oh no, yeah, by that time I was giving up pharmacy to go and become full-time clairvoyant, and just nothing. I thought, oh my goodness, my dad really doesn't like what I'm doing. But I was committed to my choice, and I knew it was right for me. So one day I was standing, and I was ironing. Now, to get yourself into the state of seeing spirit, you can very much get yourself into almost like a dreamlike state through meditation, through drumbeat, excuse me, and also through just boring stuff. And boring, monotonous thing to me is ironing. Excuse me. And I was ironing away, iron. And I looked up, and there was my dad standing just a wee bit in front of me. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and his expression in that moment said, oh my God, I've managed it. And the minute that came through, he went, and I burnt my hand with the iron. So it showed that he was trying to get through, but I then went into a meditation to see if I could get him or if he would come through. Nelly, no. And he didn't, but at least I'd had the fact that I knew he'd tried, and I knew that maybe he'd made a connection for a little while and then it'd gone. And it's so frustrating. So I asked people in spirit to maybe help him, or maybe to bring them through a channel, or help him be kind of stronger. And then I think it was a few months later he got through, and again it was just for a short period of time. But this time I was going up the pole thinking, my dad doesn't like what I'm going to do, and my dad doesn't like my tarot cards and whatever, and he just appeared. I'm sure I was doing something monotonous again, like cleaning or something, and it got me into that kind of premeditative state. And he appeared and he looked at me and he said, "Don't worry, you just need to be a good person to get where I am now." And then he went. And that was probably what I needed him to say, that heaven or the good spiritual place just wasn't all full of Catholics. And I mean that in the nicest way. But that, as long as you followed a good path, that anyone could get to where he'd been. And the one thing about my dad was he was a good man, and he was a good man before he was a good Catholic, if you know what I mean. He had a morality that didn't need a faith to tell him what was right or wrong. But I thought that that's an important thing for you all to know, because I know that there's quite a few of you move from organised religion to find something else, and maybe your family histories or your family culture is no, you'll burn in hell, or you'll never get to heaven, or whatever they believe. And according to my dad, you just have to be a good person to get where you are. Now, years after that, I asked him why it taken so long for him to come back through, and he said, well, I had my life. I had 9 years of really, really bad, difficult health issues, and not only were they very bad physically, they were bad on my head, and I understood that. And he said it took me an awful lot. It took me longer than you would maybe have thought to be healed in spirit. And that gave me an insight as well, that that there's different timings in our time with theirs. What he was trying to say was that there could have been a spirit that maybe had didn't have a difficult passing or a difficult this, and come back after, say, 6 months or a year. But it took him the couple of years because he took extra time to heal away that last part of his life. And I think that's an interesting thing as well. However, the story about the dream with him goes back to maybe 4 or 5 years ago, if that. And it's in kind of two parts. What he showed me was funny. Anyway, I was sleeping one night, and in my dream I stood up, and I was in a place called North Berwick, which is where my family used to go for summer holidays some summers. And I was standing, and anybody that knows North Berwick, there's the grassy bit with one bay, and then there's the harbour and the rocks, and then there's another bay with like a children's sort of swimming pool. Not a swimming pool, not the outdoor one, but it's almost just, there's a space where kids can play and it's not too deep. So I was standing where we would stand, and just in front of the not crazy golf, like small golf. And I was looking, and I turned, and my dad was standing beside me, and I felt amazing, absolutely amazing. And he looked at me, and it was just him, and it wasn't him with all the strokes, it was him before the strokes, which was wonderful. And It was so lovely. And he looked at me, and he pointed out towards the sea. And as he pointed there was this big, huge wave. I wouldn't call it a tsunami. It wasn't a tsunami, but it was maybe about a 12-foot wave, 6 to 12 foot, big, massive wave. And it came towards the bay that we were in, and he showed me it come in, and it took everything with it. And then he took me to where the harbour was, and all the little boats, all full of little, not so much fishing boats, I wouldn't say, but wee rowing boats and wee sailing boats. It's just quite a small harbour, but the wave went into the harbour and knocked all the boats over, and they were all pulled, and some were broken or whatever. And once the wave had gone through there, it was going to the other bay where the children's bit is, the place where you can paddle, and there's that kind of stoned off bit. And I thought, oh, the kids. But as the wave had hit where we were, and then over it had gone through the harbour, by the time that it got to the other bay, say the East Bay, right, it ran out of steam, and there was no damage at all. In fact, by the time it came to the shore, the wave had gone, and it was just lapping like a normal wave. So I looked at my dad, and he said, "It's okay." And I was like, okay. And then that was that. It just sort of disappeared, and I wakened up. Now, my dad's very good in dreams, but I know a lot of the psychology of dreams, and water is emotion. And when you get big waves coming through, and you're getting someone show you there's a big wave coming, it means there's going to be a big wave of emotion hitting our life, hitting my life, basically. And yes, it might wreck some of the things round about, it might wreck some relationships, whatever, but there would be the other wee bee or the other part of life that wasn't touched, and it was fine. So I meditated on that, and I felt I'd got the answer right. So I would expect something coming that would be emotional, to do with maybe my family. But I also felt there was more to it, but it wasn't clicking. It was like something intangible. But I prepared myself for some bad emotional news, knowing that my dad had said it would be okay. So what happened was two things. So it was North Berwick, big wave, up to where we were, wrecked all the harbour boats, but didn't touch the other bay. That's the bare bones of it, and it would be okay. About 2 days later, no, just one day actually, it was the following day, I got a phone call to say that there'd been something mad happen to a relative down south, someone that I love dearly, and basically they'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time, and had been picked up by the police for something that they were meant to do, which was all about mistaken identity, and it was about them doing something to someone that was only self-defense or whatever. But before I knew it, a family member was being held by the police, and it was terrifying, because we knew that what was being said was wrong. We knew that this family member wasn't, in no way had that type of thing in them or whatever, and it was just the wrong place at the wrong time. But it didn't seem to be that was moving forward. So I kept hanging on to the dream, and within a day, the police had sort of said, "Oh, we're so sorry, this shouldn't have happened. We shouldn't have had anything to do with what happened to you." I know I'm not going to say who it is or what it is, but basically the law was changed. after it, in the months after it, so that this sort of thing couldn't happen. That, you know, if you were innocent of something, you were just in the wrong place, you could get taken and arrested as such. So everything did actually go fine, but the person themselves was left quite scarred with it, and they moved away, which was an emotional thing for me, because I was always quite happy having them reasonably near down in England. But the first day we got that news, what had happened, and it was all wrong, and it was a big emotional wave, it affected everybody. And then the following day, it's all okay. It was a big mistaken identity, should never have happened, and that was fine. And I thought, well, thanks, Dad, for warning me, because I'd kind of cleared work out of the way, and I was ready for whatever phone call was coming. But there was still that niggle that there was something missing. So that was fair enough. So the day after that, I opened a newspaper, and it was like page 5 or something, it was further on, and it said that very unusual thing had happened in North Berwick yesterday, which was the day ahead yesterday, and a massive wave had come in off the east coast and had flattened all the wee boats in in the harbour, but it hadn't done any damage to where the kids would play in the other bay. So my dad managed to give me a visual that represented both a wave of emotion coming and hitting the family, but it being okay. But he also gave a prediction of this wave that wrecked the boats in North Berwick Harbour, and I'm sure you'll be able to look it up because it happened. It was in the newspapers, and all the wee boats were all wrecked and everything, and yeah, it was just a big wave, but that's what it did. And I thought, yeah, Dad, well done. Not even just one thing, but two in the one dream. And I was always very chuffed about that, because I felt that, you know, not only had we had a spiritual sort of warning about something happening in family, but he'd also as good as written a newspaper heading for 3 days forward. So that's the story of that dream. And just because it did the two things, I just think it's amazing. And my dad still does come in dreams, not as much, but when he does come, it's important. And I do sit up and take notice, and I do kind of go, okay, right, maybe not be putting too much pressure on myself to get stuff done or whatever, because something's going to hit. So that's my wee story. I'd like you to tell me if you had any spirits come to you in dreams and maybe give you a wee warning about something and then it's happened. I'd really love to know. So you can put it in the comments below, because people love reading about these things. I know I do. I'm writing the book at the moment, and so many people have shared their spiritual stories, and it's absolutely lovely. So if you want to do that and you put it in the comments, great. But if not, then email me. My email's in the description box below, and if you want to support me with a wee coffee, that's lovely too. And if you like my stories, remember that a lot of them and different ones are in my memoirs, Memoirs of a Clairvoyant by Colette Clairvoyant, and it's in all Amazons. So yeah, if you like that story, you'll probably like that book. So many blessings. Please give me a thumbs up and let me know if you like this story. Bye now. Many blessings.